What's up, everybody? This is Chuck Creekmer, AllHipHop.com. We're here at One World Studios with my man Ray Fisher, a.k.a. Cyborg, a.k.a. Rayborg.
A.k.a. Rayborg.
How you doing?
Borg Life. A.k.a.
Borg Life.
A lot of things, man.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you, man. It's my pleasure. So first things I have to say, I am a lifelong comic book fan. I have the original Cyborg comic when they first did his origin.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a treat.
You talk about the new Teen Titans, the 1980s?
Yeah, back in the day. So this is like my childhood coming to life. So how do you feel about it from your perspective, playing this mighty character, this incredible role, and quite frankly, being one of the first African American superheroes in the DC universe?
It feels good, man. I mean, similar to you, I've been a fan of these characters since I was a kid. Right. I didn't have physical comic books, but I watched everything that they had put out, from Michael Keaton's Batman all the way through Batman the Animated Series, Justice League. Anything that came out in the 90s, I was glued to my TV set watching it, and that's how I grew to love these characters.
Yeah.
Now, Cyborg specifically, the only iteration I'd ever seen of him up until the point where I started working on this movie was the Teen Titans cartoon show from the early 2000s.
Right.
And as you know, because you've read the comic book version of Cyborg is much different than the Teen Titans cartoon show version. Yep. So when I actually started looking into it as an actor, I was like, man, this guy's deep. Like, he's deep, he's grounded, he's emotional, he's dealing with real issues. Like, it was like the best of both worlds, where you get to play a superhero, but you also get to play someone who has that has gray area. Right. You know, people dealing with real issues.
Absolutely.
And I feel like for me that just resonates. You know, I've been a huge fan of of Chris Nolan's Batmans and obviously Blade, all types of things. And on the African American side, man, it's a privilege. You know, I hope it does resonate with people the same way that me watching Wesley Snipes for the first time playing Blade resonated when I was a kid. I was too young to be watching that at the time. Like, my older brother would take me to the movies, but like it meant a whole lot. And even as a kid, I didn't know. You know, you're not aware of what representation is. You know, you just watch what you watch, and you don't necessarily, you can't comprehend how it affects you until you start to get a little bit older. You say, oh well, okay, this is. You start putting those dots together. Yeah. But it's a privilege, and hopefully, I do the character justice, and people respond to it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
thank you.
Definitely. Now, are you ready to see little Cyborg kids around Halloween? And
there's been some people out already, and especially at the comic conventions.
Yeah.
They go all in when it comes to the cosplay, and it's nice because you don't really have an idea of the impact it has until you see the hours that people have put into creating these costumes. Yeah. I wasn't aware that they released a Cyborg movie version of the costume this year. I didn't expect we get it until next year.
Right.
And so I'm seeing on Twitter and Instagram people are tagging me saying, hey, look, my kid's dressed as Cyborg, and there's little kids of all different shapes, sizes, and colors, smiling, being the half man, half machine.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is powerful. Yeah. This is powerful.
Have you had any weird interactions? I know because Comic-Cons can be a little crazy sometimes.
They could get a little wild. I mean, I don't think I've had any super negative interactions that I've carried with me. Right. People are very passionate about what it is we do. Yeah. And sometimes that passion can come off in ways that aren't I don't think are fully thought through. I think there was I think the toughest thing is when people come in and they purposely try to get you to take photos that they know that you shouldn't be taking. Like they'll come in with memorabilia of some kind that they want you to hold, or something that isn't like that may be slightly offensive, just because they're trying to get a rise out of people and say, oh look, I got Ray Fisher to hold a picture of this or do that in this photo. But you can kind of squash that pretty quickly. And luckily the conventions I've been a part of, you have handlers who are, making sure that if they see somebody trying to do something like that, they'll step in and squash that before it even starts. So you don't have to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I can't wait. They say the Cyborg standalone movie is around 2020. I think we should try to push it for next year.
You think so?
Yeah.
You want to expedite the process?
Let's make it happen next year.
If you make enough noise, it'll get expedited.
I think I'm going to start a petition.
Listen, go ahead. I'll be the first one to sign it.
Okay.
I'll be first on your list.
Yeah.
The thing is, you look at the success of Wonder Woman, right? And what that did for Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah.
That movie wasn't on the docket, but now it's getting fast tracked because of how it did and the popularity of the character and everybody involved. did a phenomenal job of bringing that to life.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just, you know, it's Hollywood, so money talks at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think we're on a wave right now. I think we can do it.
You think so? Yeah, look, from your lips, man.
All right.
From your lips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it. What did you want to bring? You know, Victor Stone is the man behind the machine, behind the armor and everything. What did you want to bring from that perspective?
You know, I wanted to make sure that in what we were doing, Victor Stone's vulnerability was highlighted.
Yeah.
And his resilience as an individual is highlighted. Because he undergoes some very traumatic circumstances, and that's enough to turn anybody into a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. But he chooses not to use those powers for evil. He chooses to take that situation and attempt to turn it into something positive. You know, he's deep in that. He's the only hero that can't take off his costume. You know, he's got to be Cyborg 24/7. He's completely unlike the other members of the League as it stands right now, and I think that plays a lot into his psychology. So him being able to rebuild himself mentally, the same way that his father rebuilt him physically, was one of the things that I know Zack Snyder, our director, Chris Terrio, and myself really wanted to sort of accent. Yeah.
Now, not to get into the rumors, because I know that you can't really comment too much.
I may not even know the answer, so it
right.
It may be an easy question.
If you can, just tell Ben Affleck to stick around. If he's not sticking around.
Okay. I mean, I don't know anything about
right?
that.
I know. Just telling you, because he is, like, to me, the best Batman, even though he hasn't done a full movie yet.
Yeah, well, you can start another petition for that too.
Yeah,
you can Cyborg 2020 and the other petitions too. Man.
All right.
So,
now, how was it working with the cast?
Honestly, it felt like you're working with your friends every day. It didn't feel like work.
Yeah.
It was like you go in and you're playing make believe with a bunch of other big kids.
Yeah.
I think you know, we had a lot of people who, you know, connected the group in a really big way. Jason, he was really good at making people feel included. Ezra, obviously, you know, he's cracking jokes in between takes, just like keeping it very lively. And Zack Snyder, the way he runs his set is it's sort of a trickle down effect. What happens with that? Because, you know, he treats everybody with such respect and dignity, but also, you know, he knows we're making a comic book movie. So like, you know, the set is always very light. It's always very fun when you're on with him. And I feel like that sort of filtered into like our personal relationships as well with one another. Because you're a team, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you know, it's about this team coming together. But if you don't have that chemistry, you just don't have that chemistry. You know, it's a matter of trusting your fellow actor, trusting the people that you're working with creatively. And I think that was built there because we're working with, you know, Zack is so passionate about what he does, and he puts his whole heart into it. So, yeah.
Now let me ask you this. This is something I've had as a question for a long time.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can impart a little knowledge if I can.
Cyborg's his costume setup is tough when it comes to relationships. Now, how are we gonna work that out? Because I think he needs like a girlfriend or something.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, in the comics, he's had relationships in the past, and the thing is, you know, I feel like that's an interesting avenue for us to be able to explore. It's like, what kind of relationship he would have? You know, with whom would he have this relationship?
Right.
And what does it mean to have a relationship? You know, is it something that has to be solely physical? Is it a bonding of the minds? Is it a bonding of the spirits? You know, I feel like Cyborg begs a lot of questions that we don't know the answer, that nobody can give a concrete answer to.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the idea is that if we can play with those ideas in future films, I think we got a lot of room to. I think we got a lot of room to dig.
Yeah, definitely. And now with technology, the way it's working, it's
absolutely,
it's crazy right now.
I mean, I say this just because this is me, you know, going through the list of powers that Cyborg has and figuring out like who would beat who in a particular match. Cyborg could destroy the entire planet with a thought if he wanted to.
Right.
He could set off every nuclear device simultaneously, and that's it, done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's one of the most powerful beings in the universe. I mean, one of his big hang-ups in our film is that, you know, he hasn't fully got acclimated to his powers yet. Yeah. So it's going to be ever evolving in that way. Yeah. And he's made of the mother box technology, which is the most advanced technology in the entire universe.
Right. Absolutely.
So, you know, it's hard to figure out sometimes what he can't do. You know, because he doesn't have a specified weakness. He doesn't have a specified kryptonite of sorts. Yeah. But, you know, a lot of his struggle is an internal one. Yeah. So it goes deep, man.
Yeah, definitely. Did you get to talk to Joe Morton at all?
Oh, yeah.
How was he? He's
Joe,
a master.
Joe is a master of the craft. He is a master of the craft. He's probably one of the hardest working people I think I've ever met in my life. You know, he'd be shooting Justice League, going back and shooting Scandal, coming back, shooting a couple more days on Justice League, and this year he was shooting and going back and doing his one-man show that he was doing off Broadway, and then it just an insane work ethic, and it was always on time, always on point. Every take he'd give it to you, like whether or not the camera's on him, he's there, he's present for you as an actor, which is a beautiful thing. He's not just worried about his coverage, he's worried about the team. Did he give you any advice? The best advice he gave me actually was from when we shot BVS. When I met him for the first time. I told him, I said, well, how do you do it? Like, how do you get where do you find the energy? Where do you find the time? He said, well, listen, we don't get the privilege of doing this. We don't always get the privilege of doing this as much as we like, right? So when you get those bursts, you kind of have to ride it, because you never know. It's like we're always going from one job to the next. You could be a great actor, but if you don't have a role that speaks to you, you're unemployed. Yeah, absolutely. So,
how do you deal with the critics? I mean, as I stated earlier, the conversations in my world of comic fans, and there's like levels. There's like
same world I'm in too. Man. I got a lot of friends who are knee deep in the fandom. Like entrenched in the fandom. With the critic side of it, all I can do is focus on my job. Focus on my job as I come in. I try to make the material that I'm given as realistic and as interesting as possible within the confines of the story we're trying to tell. Whether or not people respond to it, I can't be too concerned about that. Obviously you want people to respond positively. That's just where we're at by default. But it's art. Not everybody's gonna like it. It's like we could listen to the same song and I go, oh man, I really love that song. You go, well, listen, it was alright. I mean, I like this one better. We're just comparing our experiences and what speaks to us and what doesn't. So as an actor, I think you sort of build up. You have to sort of build up this not ignore, but you sort of have to build up this wall where you don't take fame, you don't take praise too seriously, but you also can't take the defamation too seriously either. So it has to reach this sweet spot where if I listen to all the positive stuff people say and I take that to heart, I also have to listen to the negative stuff that people say because it's also their opinion and it may be just as valid as the people who respond to it positively. So you sort of have to try to take this indifferent approach to it and say, look, all I'm going to do is just focus on the work. Head down, eyes forward. That's it.
Definitely. Yeah. Now, a lot of people don't know your journey. It's not been overnight. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Now, no, I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, he came out of nowhere." I just turned 30. I've just turned 30 a couple months ago. And I've been grinding in theater since I was 18 years old. So it's been about a 12-year journey to get to this point. And I got out of high school, and decided I wanted to come to New York City, study theater, and be an actor. And so getting out of the 1.5-year conservatory program that I took, there wasn't really too much available to me. And luckily I ended up, falling in love with classical theater, with Shakespeare. Ended up working with the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey, with the McCarter Theater in Princeton, New Jersey, with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and ultimately ended up doing a play playing Muhammad Ali at the New York Theater Workshop downtown. And from there, I ended up getting an agent and a manager because there was some hype that was involved in that particular production, and I ended up getting an agent and a manager and taking a trip out to LA, where I meet with the folks from Warner Brothers, and that's when the whole Cyborg thing sort of fell into place. But there were a lot of tough times. There really, really were. I've got some of my best friends who I've met along the way, some of the most talented people that you probably never heard of. Hopefully, they'll get the opportunity to shine in that way, and that you will. But there were days where I couldn't afford to feed myself. There were many days where I'm on the train in New York City, got a loaf of wheat bread in my backpack, just trying to pop pieces in when I can because couldn't afford to eat. Had to move back to my mom's house multiple times, just because I couldn't afford to act and live simultaneously. It was fortunate for me that I lived close enough to the city. My family's in South Jersey. I lived close enough where my cousin could drive me to the bus station, so that way I could come up to the city and audition for a job that I knew was unlikely I was going to get. But the fact that they helped support me in that, it meant a whole lot to me, man. And it's humbling in a way because, I feel like failure can harden you up. Right? It's like when you're knee deep in the grind, you gotta sort of make yourself stubborn to keep going and say, listen, I'm gonna be the exception. I'm gonna be the exception. I'm gonna be the exception. It wasn't me, it's them. You know, it's me against the world. That kind of thing. But now that things have started to, I've started to see some of the fruits of the labor. You start to realize just how humbling a thing it is, because there's so many parts of your journey that have very little to do with you.
Right.
I know some of the most talented people who just haven't had the opportunity. It takes a lot of yeses to get an actor from auditioning for a movie to testing for a film, let alone getting the role. It takes a lot of people to say yes, after thousands of no's of auditioning, that sort of thing. And so, when I look at how my life has gone over the last 12 years, I can track back now. I've been going back and doing a lot of introspection. I can track back all the specific instances that have got me to this place, and all the small gestures and little favors that people have done for me, that if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here.
Wow. Yeah,
so,
that's amazing.
Yeah, man.
Now, I heard you're into MMA. Are you into boxing too? Or?
MMA? I'm not into MMA.
You're not?
No, not particularly. That's all right. The internet is a scary place.
Oh my goodness! All right, got some bad information.
That's okay. I mean, I was when I was portraying Muhammad Ali, I was watching all the boxing stuff I could get my eyes on.
Right.
But no, I mean, growing up, I have asthma, so growing up, sports wasn't really I wasn't able to do that in an organized way. But I respect the people that go out there and put their bodies on the line for it. It's tough for me to watch sometimes, man. It does get tough.
Yeah. What about music? What are you into?
Yeah, my Spotify stays on a random shuffle. Okay. I listen to a lot of old school hip hop. Okay. A lot of Tupac, that kind of thing. And people laugh at me, but I tell them, I'm like, when I was in the gym training for the movie. You're going to laugh, I'm just letting you know right now, but I'd actually listen to Sade while I was in there.
Sade?
I know, it's crazy, right?
That's hard to comprehend.
But here's why, let me tell you.
Okay.
Let me tell you. So usually when I'm listening to something, like I'm running or I'm lifting weights, whatever, like I always want to go with, like, you always feel yourself falling into the rhythm of the beat, right? So you listen to something, a hard-hitting beat, you're just like, keep going. I burn myself out too quick. Okay. You feel me? Like I need something that's so counterintuitive to the motion I'm trying to do, so I can find my own rhythm with it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I can't listen to music at all. Okay. So, we got Momoa in there. He's listening to hardcore rock. He's listening to a lot of to just about everything. Then I'm like, all right, my turn for the playlist. I turn it on.
Smooth operator.
The whole gym stops. Everybody looks at me like, man, do it. Right. But I'm telling you, like, there would have been nothing else that, like, for me to be able to calm my mind down. In the gym, because like my mind starts racing. I'm like, all right, gotta do it. And the minute you start getting in your head about it, just like anything else. That's when you start falling apart. Yeah. So, I mean, you'd be surprised, man. There's probably a lot of people in your gym listening to it. You just don't know.
I can believe that. I like Radiohead personally. Radiohead, when I was training for my marathon, I would listen to stuff like Radiohead. To like keep your mind focused. For the long haul.
Yeah, because for me, like if it's got too much bass or treble, I end up listening to the song more than I am focusing on the workout. Right. So I need to have something to just mellow me out, put me in a different zone. Yeah. So
now, I don't know if I can ask this question. Are you allowed to deal with Marvel topics, or?
I can deal with them.
Okay.
I can deal with them as best I can.
So who do you think would win, Luke Cage or Cyborg?
Cyborg. That's not a question. Cyborg would throw him in outer space. So I guess he can't breathe in outer space.
Right. What about Iron Man?
So Iron Man and Cyborg? Cyborg.
Yeah.
And this is. I mean, I know it's a popular subject to debate, but the reason I say this is because Cyborg, if these two people had never met before, Cyborg's technology is otherworldly. Yeah. Right, and he is technology. Right. He could shut down the suits and all that stuff before they even start the battle. The minute Cyborg sees some tech, boom, I got you. Right.
Now, would he get along with? So on the other side, you think he would get along with someone like Black Panther, who is deeply rooted in technology?
It depends. I mean, they're both good guys, so I think they would get along in a good way. Yeah. I think I'm interested to see what they do with Wakanda and building that culture and seeing the kind of tech that exists in that landscape. Yeah.
I'm really hoping for a Cyborg to be the other side of that.
The flip side of the coin.
Yeah, because again, not to throw race into it, but as a lifelong comic fan, I'm just like, this is like everything I ever wanted coming true. Black Panther, Luke Cage, Falcon, and now Cyborg. So it's just an incredible time.
Well, and the great thing is that they're all different characters, right? They all have very different backstories. It's not like, well, this is a copy-paste version of this particular person. You know what I mean? So and there's a lot of experiences, particularly for people of color. It's like you can have two black people that have two very different life experiences.
Absolutely.
And Black Panther may resonate with someone, and Cyborg may resonate with another person because of who he is. I know personally for me, Cyborg resonated in a big way when I was reading his origin story from the New Teen Titans, because he has a father who was not around for him.
Right.
I come from a single mom household, 5 kids. I'm second youngest of 5. It was my mom and my grandmom that raised us. So when I saw the Cyborg origin, and I said, oh wow, we're dealing with a superhero film. We're dealing with a superhero whose parent was around, but there was no emotional connection.
Right.
And he didn't have any emotional connection toward his son until his son's life was in danger.
Right.
So by the time he decided to change his ways and say, listen, I care about you, I love you, it was already too late.
Yeah.
Victor looks at him as if like, what did you do to me? Why did you turn me into this monster? Why didn't you let me die? It takes his mother's life, it takes his body all in one fell swoop. It's deep.
Yeah,
it's very deep, and it's powerful. And back in the 1980s, when Cyborg was created, DC Comics was talking about some pretty edgy stuff. Even back then, they were dealing with real world social issues. And from the original version, if Cyborg were the MLK, his best friend Ron Evers, who you probably remember from the earlier version, was a little bit like the Malcolm X.
Right.
You had different kinds of points of view for people of color, even within the same comic. So it was very interesting to watch, and I was like, you know what, I don't know where this has been all my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Marv Wolfman, oddly enough, who I got to meet at the premiere of Justice League in LA. Great. What I didn't realize until like a year ago, I'm rewatching Blade, and his name pops up as creator of Blade. He created Cyborg and Blade.
I didn't realize that.
Oh man, I got to meet him. I geeked out. I geeked out hard, man. I've only been starstruck like twice, and he was one of those times, man.
Wow.
Yeah, it was powerful. Ooh. I'm fairly certain. Don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly certain he is the only creator of one of the characters in the Justice League film who's still around. Who's still alive? Okay. I think all the other heroes, I think their original creators have since passed away. So it was a beautiful thing to be able to meet him.
I gotta find him.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, man. I'm from Delaware, so for a South Jersey guy to rise to this level, it's definitely feels like one for the home team.
Well, thank you for saying so, and I'm gonna don the mantle as best I can, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Continued success.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, AllHipHop, I'm Ray Fisher, aka Cyborg in the new movie Justice League. Be sure to check us out starting today, Friday, November 17th.